Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr for Tom. That was insane. How's it going?
I just got to watch maybe one of the most exciting football games I've seen in almost certainly my favorite place to watch football. So 2022 is off to a halfway decent start. That was not the best played football game I've ever seen by a large margin, but it was one of the most exciting games. And I'm sitting there at halftime going, we could do a 4-hour postgame show, and then the whole second half happened. It's like, we could just live stream. It's a good thing we're not flying out till the 3rd, because we could do a 24-hour show tomorrow.
And can go in many different directions about what we saw, how we saw it. The first half is 12 hours, the second half is another 12 hours. But even when it was 35-21 at the half, it felt like this was one of those crazy shootouts that you watch other teams have, where it's like, well, 14 points, what does that really mean?
Right.
If you could just, break serve or whatever, and then you've got a chance. And it was, you're on the field, I'm up in the press box, Kevin's up in the press box, and it's exactly like watching one of these crazy games that normally you just get to watch on television. But we were here for it. The windows were open in the press box. You could hear the crowd going crazy both sides. Players having a blast. This was amazing.
Yeah, it was like the perfect day of football. And, in the middle of the third quarter, it was like, I don't know who's going to win this game, but I know it is going to be an incredible finish. And yeah, it was kind of like 3 different football games in one, maybe 4. I don't know. I have not had this. I've not formulated this thought all the way through, but it's like you had, Utah comes out, it's 14-0. And it was like, oh no, this could be going very badly for Ohio State. And then Ohio State sort of scores, and then Utah scores, and they're kind of ping-ponging back and forth. And it seemed, there was a point where it was like, the only times Utah has stopped Ohio State after the first drive or two was Ohio State stopping itself with fumbles or just silly mistakes. And it was like, okay, well, if they can get the ball after halftime and score a touchdown, and you get one stop, and then, there became a point where it was very obvious Utah was just, Utah had used all its stops. They used all their stops very early, and then they're out of stops, and then it was just going to be touchdown, 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 touchdown for Ohio State.
A lot of the talk after the game was using this to springboard into next year. What I would like to see is, as soon as this team gets home, they will fly home tonight, Jaxon, Smith-Njigba running the stairs at Ohio Stadium for fumbling into the end zone and costing Ohio State a possession, a touchdown, almost the entire game. Where does that guy get off?
Yeah, that was literally right in front of me. I've got some great pictures of that.
He was like, slow motion.
Yeah, it was like, I'm going to have some great photos of a touchdown. Well, I'm going to have great photos of the ball flying out of his hand. Yeah, I mean, individual performances.
Yeah.
Where does that rank in the greatest individual performances you've seen in person? I mean,
well,
I feel like you could see it with Jaxon Smith-Njigba more than you could with Trey Sermon. It didn't right away. It's just kind of like all the, early on in the Big Ten championship game, Trey Sermon was like, oh, he's having a really good day. It was like the middle of the second quarter. I'm like, oh, I don't have any idea. I have no access to any stats on the field. I was just like, oh, Terry Glenn, enjoy your last few moments on the top of the OSU record.
Yeah, so let's go through this. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, 15 catches, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns. We grabbed Kevin Wilson after the game down in the tunnel, and he's like, yeah, 15 catches, 16 targets. So I was like, when you have that, do you feel like it's just automatic? Like you call it and it's automatic? He's like, I don't feel that way, but CJ does, because sometimes he will just hold it and wait for it to open up because he knows it will. And because I asked Kevin, you have been around some great performances, Ryan Broyles, Adrian Peterson, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and he said this was an unbelievable performance. I ran into Chris Olave on the field, and just asking about it. He's like, how many yards did he finish with? I'm like, he was over 300. And it's just like Chris Olave's appreciate that dude. It was
good thing he stuck around to watch the game.
Yeah, no, and I should have asked him, did you enjoy it? So individual performances. I was in the stadium for Eddie George's 314 yards. in the stadium for Trey Sermon's 331.
Yes, that sounds right.
This, to me, I don't know that anything will ever top Eddie George for me, but I'm going to go ahead and move this to at least number 2 because Trey Sermon played 1 year at Ohio State.
Yeah.
So, but based on that, and again, there are 6 200-yard receiving games in Ohio State football history. Jaxon Smith-Njigba now has 2 of them. And he set 3 major records, Ohio State records, and a Rose Bowl record today. So he is the all-time receptions leader now with, or all-time single-season receptions leader with 95. And then, I don't know the math on exactly how many yards, but he broke David Boston's 1435, and of course broke Terry Glenn's 253 by 94 yards.
Yeah,
just ridiculous.
Yeah, let's put this into perspective for a moment. C.J. Stroud completed 37 passes, or 37 for 46, 573 yards, which is an Ohio State school record by 74 yards.
Yes.
Dwayne Haskins was 499. 6 touchdowns. He was not the most outstanding player of the game on offense. It's like, boy, that takes some doing. To break an Ohio State school record for passing yards, to tie the Ohio State school record for passing touchdowns, and you are not, in fact, the outstanding player.
Well, and again, when this team gets home, I need to see C.J. Stroud running those stairs because he threw an interception in the end zone.
That
cannot have that.
That one was also right in front of me. I've got great shots of that one too, and it was like
you are a bad omen. Like you are a cooler, if you will.
I mean, I'm not going to take all of the blame for it because that was not a great choice on that throw. Kevin is throwing a cooler at us now, but no, I mean,
this is you, Tom.
That's me, the cart cooler. No, it was just. Yeah, I'm just looking at the stats right now. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, 15 catches on 16 targets. Marvin Harrison Jr., 6 catches on 8 targets. Julian Fleming, 5 catches on 6 targets. Travion Henderson, 4 catches on 5 targets. Like, he had incompletions at some point, but it's like, who were the incompletions to? I'm struggling to remember specific incompletions at this point.
There were so many clutch throws.
One was a short hop to Travion Henderson.
Yeah.
And then also early on the first drive.
I think he missed Ruckert at one point. But yeah, I mean, it's just, he had 573 yards, 6 touchdowns. It's just, Marvin Harrison, in his first career start, scores 3 touchdowns and is like, oh, we haven't talked about Marvin Harrison yet, and he scored 3 touchdowns in his first career start.
I'm not going to take all the credit for Marvin Harrison. But when he did have his second, I told Noon up in the press box, he's got a third one coming.
Well,
we don't need to talk about that, Tom.
No, because I worry that people who are listening to the Instant Reaction show as a podcast might not have listened to our pregame show, where I predicted Marvin Harrison Jr. It was a viewer question, which of the first-time starters is going to have a breakout game, and I said Marvin Harrison Jr., but it wouldn't surprise me if it was Emeka Egbuka. I feel like that went pretty well for me.
I don't know exactly how many Egbuka had. He had a 30-yard touchdown. I don't know if he had any other catches than that one. But so many, just the precise throws, guys getting their feet down right on the sideline or the back of the end zone. 4th and 1 touchdown to Jaxon, I think, or was it Marvin? Was it Emeka Egbuka? It didn't matter. This was so insane to watch. And then talking to both Cade Stover and Tommy Eichenberg after the game, and these guys are like best friends. They're like, you get to the locker room, and there was no doubt. They said they had no doubt that they were going to win. DeMario McCall stood up in front of the team and said something at halftime. And Ryan Day was asked about that. We grabbed him after everything. He's trying to get on the bus to get on the plane, and he was like, he didn't know who said what because he wasn't in there. He gave the locker room to the players.
Yeah.
And let them figure it out, or not let them figure it out.
Yeah.
But, Kevin.
Super Chat, FDR is great. How long do you think it'll take Jim Knowles to get OSU defense back on track?
How long do we think it will take Jim Knowles to get OSU's defense back on track? Well, I think he did a great job in the second half when he had the secret meetings at halftime with all of the defensive players.
Well, I think you could tell it was Jim Knowles' impact because if you watched the Fiesta Bowl, it was exactly the same defensive game plan. Give up a bunch of early touchdowns, get the opponent overconfident.
Right.
And then boom, lockdown defense in the second half.
Rope-a-dope.
And there were a lot of people who were saying, well, they got like the one stop they needed. It was like, well, Utah's last 6 drives, they got a total of 10 points.
Yeah.
If you are giving up 10 points every 6 drives, that's great. You're going to win. You're going to win a bunch of games, even with kind of an average offense. And it kind of feels like Ohio State's offense might be at least slightly above average at this point.
And in the second half, I think Utah had 324 yards at the half. They finished with 463, so 140 yards of offense in the second half. I think you can do just fine with that.
Almost the exact same number of plays, and Ohio State had 220 more yards of offense.
But I do think it's going to be one of those things where will it be fixed right away? No, it'll get better and it'll grow. The players will learn it better. Knowles will know what he can do more. You'll add to it. It'll be simple and basic as you want an exotic, aggressive defense to be. But it'll get more complex the more games they play. But I mean, and I always say this about offense. If you have a bad offense, you have a bad offense on purpose. After seeing that first half and seeing some of these games this year for the Buckeyes, if you have a bad defense, again, you have a bad defense on purpose.
Well, if you have the talent that Ohio State has, there's no reason not to. If you have the talent that Ohio State has, and you have a bad defense, that's either coaching or scheme. I mean, you are not putting the players in the correct place to do things, or you're just, the scheme is just wrong. I mean, there's only a couple explanations, and the level of talent that Ohio. I mean, we have these conversations. I feel like pretty much every game at this point. But someone was saying that Ohio State had 14 4-star players on defense, and Utah had 1 or something like that. It's just you have an incredible talent advantage. You should win games like this. You're not always going to win games like this because this is college football. Weird stuff happens, but yeah, I mean, you saw Ohio State's talent kind of kicking in the second half, I think.
Yeah, throughout. And Travion Henderson ran tough. Maya Williams came in for a couple of key plays and gave them a little bit of a burst. Only ran the ball 20 times in this game, which is pretty crazy. And C.J. Stroud had a 10-yard carry to pick up a first down.
That did not get called back on a penalty, which I didn't know was legal.
But, just looking through these stats, Tommy Eichenberg, 17 tackles, which was... I think what was the prediction, the bold prediction, 12 or 11?
We said 11 or 12, yeah, 17. It was just he was just out there, just in the middle of everything, all the time, constantly. And I don't know if you could tell this from the box, but that was one of the hardest hitting games I've seen in a long time. I think, it was not always smart defense for the Buckeyes, especially in the first half. But man, they were laying the lumber. You could, I think you could probably attribute some of that to the, the soft defense and all that. All that talk about that. They took that seriously. I think we have another super chat.
Yes, from Buckology Academy. Tom, say something nice about Tony.
Tom, say something nice about Tony.
You're taller than I am, although you might be, because it might be kind of the crown of the field. Who's to say?
Those orthopedics.
I did have a fantastic moment on the field where I took a picture of Jesse Mirko and another Pro Kick Australia player from Utah. So the 3 greatest Australian accents in the entire stadium came together in that one powerful moment post-game.
Thank you for that super chat. I feel like it was a little wasted based on what Tom had to say. If you noticed, the greatest compliment he paid during that was to himself.
No, it was to Jesse Mirko and the other guy. I mean, I was just giving myself the bronze medal. But you're tall. I said so.
Thank you, Tom, for your kind words. At one point, Cameron Rising had that 62-yarder, but at the half, the longest carry other than that was like 10 yards. Like Tavion Thomas had been pretty well contained. Yeah. It was just, if Ohio State could just stop the errors, not fumble into the end zone, and just continue to those first 2 drives really, they got backed up and the field position hurt them. But after that, it felt like every drive they were going to score, and I think Utah knew it, and especially in the second half, and there really wasn't much they could do about it. And the pass protection held up, the passing accuracy was outstanding, and this was, I think we talked about it before we started here. The amazing thing, Ohio State rushes for like 110 yards, puts up 683 yards of total offense. Probably didn't even need to run the ball at all, and they could have been. Just imagine if Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were playing in this game. That would have been pointsy. And again, Ohio State 48-45. I predicted 38-24. Mm-hmm. Kevin predicted
35-31.
Tom predicted
31-27.
Utah. And you know what? At the half, I'm thinking Tom is going to be unbearable in the postgame show.
More so. No, it was at the beginning of the game. It was like, I thought there was a way that this was not going to go well for Ohio State, and
you saw
you saw it at the beginning of the game, and it's just when they hit the afterburners on that offense, like that is unlike any. I mean. When can you come up with an Ohio State offensive performance that was like that? That was just like, poor Kyle Whittingham has the ball. It was 3rd and 16. He's obviously trying to just get the ball. He's like playing for a punt at that point. He runs Tavion Thomas up the middle for 12 yards or something, and gets into a 4th and 4. And he's got his backup quarterback in at the end of the game. And it's like, I know you don't want to go for it here, but you really should go for it because. It doesn't matter where Ohio State has the ball because they're going to score a touchdown. It'll save you time if they have a shorter drive. We have another super chat.
Yes, DK, did OSU's win today and Michigan's faceplant yesterday just undo all the momentum UM had after the rivalry win?
I think it undid a lot of the angst that Ohio State fans had because this was not a happy first half. I tweeted something to the effect at halftime of, if you didn't care about this game going in, you shouldn't be so mad about it now, which angered some people.
Well,
but I stand by that. If you're like, I'm not even going to watch it. They suck so bad anyway. I'm just not even going to be invested. And then they're down 35-21 at the half, and you're like, ooh, I have an opportunity to be angry. I have to seize this opportunity. And then they win, and it's like, no.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to the beginning of December when I told everyone you should go to the Rose Bowl because the Rose Bowl is really a cool place to watch a football game, and it's going to be a good game, and it's a great place to see a game, and it's an iconic thing, and it's a great way to start the new year. And everyone's like, I'm up in my feelings, and it doesn't mean anything. Well, I think you should take my life advice. I think that's my big takeaway.
The Rose Bowl advice. Let's just. But talking to the players, the Ohio State players this week, and the coaches. They saw this as an opportunity to get that Michigan taste out of their mouth. And this is exactly what we're talking about because this is the kind of game where so many crazy things happen. I even think at one point it felt like even if they lose this is an awesome game. Like you should not feel bad about losing 45-38 or whatever it would have been, some crazy outstanding. This doesn't happen. This is an historic game. Appreciate it. It's kind of like the 97 Penn State game where it's like it was a crazy wild game. Somebody had to lose. You don't feel as terrible about it. But, go ahead.
Yeah, it was the game that came to my head was that 2003 North Carolina State game.
Yeah.
I think that ended up 45-38 or something like that in triple overtime. And it was exactly one of those, like, it's really a shame someone has to lose this games. But, yeah, I mean, this was think about how remarkable this game had to be in order to make the Michigan game not paragraphs 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the epitaph of this season. This is now the season where Ohio State won the. I mean, it is the season where they lost to Michigan, where that streak got snapped. But like paragraph 2 is, and then holy smokes, the Rose Bowl. Like this becomes part of the epitaph of the 2021 season, pretty high up, and. Think about how different the next 9 months are now around Columbus, where it's like, okay, now everyone's not just mad about the Michigan game. Now they have this. Now, I mean, I can't tell you how many people just on the field and just talking to people afterwards were saying, like, can you imagine this offense next year? Like, what is this offense going to be next year? And the answer is, I think, pretty good.
Marvin Harrison is very, very, very totally legit. Like, that dude is going to be special, and this was just a glimpse. At one point in this game, the Ohio State defense in the first half needed a break, and the Ohio State offense, total jerks about this. because they have a two-play 60-yard drive, 27 seconds for a touchdown. That's a 50-yard pass to Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Then the next drive, they get it. One play, 52 yards, 10-second drive. And then the next time they get it, two plays, 11 yards, 52 seconds. That was the botched punt where, this is a team game, Tom. The Ohio State offense was like, I don't care about your defense. And if Ohio State's defense, we don't care if they need a breather. We're not going to give it to them. But the special teams was like, we will.
Well, what's interesting is you had all three phases of the game where you could look at them and go, Stroud threw a bad pick at one point, and the offense wasn't able to run the ball, and the defense couldn't get off the field in the first half, and the special teams gave up a kickoff return touchdown, and then this is it's like the Dumb and Dumber. Just when I think you couldn't do any worse, you go and you totally redeem yourself. The special teams had not, it was we'll be charitable and call it an up and down day, but when they needed to, they covered that last kick. When the ball came out on that punt, there was Bryson Shaw to kind of jump on it, and they were fighting in the bottom of that pile, and it was like, guys, you've got it doesn't matter who has the ball, because Ohio State gets it either way.
Somebody's just looking to pad their stats with a fumble recovery. Kevin, do we have some questions? Yeah,
we
go ahead.
do have a super chat from Jordan Kapler. Hi, Jordan. Ohio State win is always great, but anytime Tom is wrong, it makes it all the better.
Yes, an Ohio State win is always great, but anytime Tom is wrong, it becomes that much better. That's where you appreciate an ESPN Classic or BTN when they show replays. What I would like is to cut in, Tom, they could grab it from YouTube. ESPN, Big Ten Network, you have our permission to grab Tom's pick from YouTube where he says Ohio State is going to lose by multiple points against Utah. Feel free to use that as a preview of some sort, and or just a constant in the background loop, like a Max Headroom type of thing.
Super chat from Treebuck. If you're an end-of-the-game clock management observer, the timeout with 12 seconds left was a beaut, especially with the kickoff history in this game. Any possible explanation given?
Tom, go ahead.
I was down on the field, and I just looked at the photographer next to me, and I said, What? What? Like, there are like 5 different ways you could play that. You could go up the line. If you want to take your timeout, okay, then you want to throw a little quick slant in the end zone. You want to throw a little fade to some, and just, you tell C.J. Stroud, if their defensive back does not fall down, you throw this out of the back of the end zone, and then you kick the field goal with 5 seconds left. That's a totally viable option. You could not take the timeout. You could hustle to the line of scrimmage. You could spike it because it was only like, first or second down. You could spike it, and then you could run or pass, and then you have your timeout left, and then you kick a field goal. To call timeout with like 9 seconds left at a time when you knew...
it was 12.
12 seconds left. At a time when you knew that meant that you were going to have to kick the ball off to the guy who literally ran a kickoff back for a touchdown, and you were willingly going to do this with a 3-point lead, which is notably less than a touchdown is worth. And then not only did you do that, you kicked the ball to him. Choices were made there. I have questions.
Well, Tom, what are the chances a guy's going to return 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns in the same game?
It doesn't happen very often, but the chances felt remarkably good at that exact moment.
I just want to say, I think maybe the end of first half situation maybe played into some of that because they ran out of time, and I think maybe he just wanted to make sure they had time. And again, that was a bizarre time for a timeout, whether you should have done it before that or after that. But I'm just wondering if maybe that played into it. But again, it could have been done better.
Doug Lindsay said that was a charged timeout due to an injured player.
Well,
I was standing down on that sideline. I don't remember an injured player, but there was a lot going on at the moment.
I think I saw Ryan Day running up to the official. Didn't I?
Well,
or standing next to the official. Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't get that. No one around me noticed that if that was the case. But that was, yeah. I mean, none of you guys noticed that, right? Yeah.
I would have taken a 10-second runoff.
Joseph jumps in with a super sticker. I'm not really, questions aren't attached to it, so Joseph, thank you for your super sticker.
Thank you very much for that. I'm just looking around. They're cleaning up the place right now, trying to process all of the different stuff that we saw. Cade Stover very much enjoys being a linebacker again, and he'll do whatever, but as Kevin Wilson also said after the game, eventually they need to just let him be what he is and let him do that for 2 years because he needs to get better at whatever it is. But I asked Tommy Eichenberg, like, are Cade Stover's days over at tight end? And he's like, well, Cade will do whatever, but I really do like playing next to him. And it seemed like those two, who are really, really good friends, they're roommates, I believe, just had a really good time playing next to each other. And they knew it was going to be a physical game. I'm sure they were preparing and looking forward to this one. And they got every bit of what they were expecting.
Yeah, and that was a remarkably good performance for the run defense. Because if you look at the numbers, Tavion Thomas, 3.7 yards per carry, long of 13. And the 13 came on like a 3rd and 16. I mean, that was the long run there came on 3rd and 16. And that got him up to 3.7 yards. TJ Pledger, 3.3 yards per carry. Like, they had the one big one to Cameron Rising, and then Micah Bernard had a couple good ones. But yeah, the one long one to Cam Rising, other than that, it was they were like 3 yards a carry all day. And I was behind the Utah offense, so I just sort of saw Cam Rising. That was a 4th and 1 play. I just sort of saw Cam Rising go around the left end, and then he kind of disappeared into a sea of bodies, and then the left side of the stadium got real loud. So I mean, I assume it was just the Ohio State defense was kind of sucked up, and the old Jonathan Wells 2001 Michigan 4th and 1. Yeah.
Well, and he just bounced it out, and there was nobody there. Kevin.
Super chat from King Bronco. Tom, you have the best voice I've ever heard. Have you thought about reading child bedtime books? Good win, go blue, you guys rock.
I have read a number of children's bedtime books. To some to Tony. He likes the Mike Mulligan and his Steam Shovel, but he thinks Henry B. Swap is a little bit scary. So he is a big Goodnight Moon fan.
I think the Berenstein Bears are a little preachy. Mm-hmm. So you just like to read those, huh?
Yeah, I have kids actually. So they're usually involved. I mean, sometimes it's you, but usually it's my kids.
Thank you for joining us as always, King Bronco. Several Michigan fans have been reaching out to show support for the show. So want to thank you all for that, but mostly thank you, more so thanks to the Ohio State fans for showing up. Kevin, we got any random questions you want to throw at us?
We have some. Thank you to the over 900 fans that are part of this already.
Wow.
New high score.
Dale wants to talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., his 3 touchdowns, second leading receiver.
Yeah, he was.
I want to talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., Tom. 6 catches, 71 yards, 3 touchdowns, is as advanced as a freshman. And it's too bad that we didn't get to see more of him. But again, he's playing behind 2 first-team All-Americans. And for some reason, Jaxon Smith-Njigba is only like a 2nd or 3rd-team All-American. He may end up winning the Sullivan Award like Ezekiel Elliott did. But that guy, next year, I've got some video. I shot a bunch of video after the game. Kyle McCord could not have been happier about this game. I assume much of it was because of Marvin Harrison and those 2 guys were hanging out afterwards. They played high school football together, longtime friends, and just the smile on both of those guys' faces. At one point, it was Jaden Ballard and Kyle McCord just looking into the crowd after the game, just smiling like, can you believe this? And that's the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
That's freshmen experiencing this. Talking with, I think, Cade Stover, he was like, this is my first time doing this, and this was outstanding. This was amazing. But Marvin Harrison, I don't know, 1,300 yards, 16 touchdowns next year, I don't think is even outrageous.
No, he is someone who we've been hearing about all year. I mean, from back in February, you heard about, like, this is a guy who's standing out during winter workouts. I was like, how much do you stand out at winter workouts? But you kept hearing the name from, like, different people, which is generally what tells me, there's something there. This is not just one guy has a favorite. So he's someone who I think And he had a touchdown pretty early in the spring game, and it was like, oh man, here it comes. And then if you're stuck behind Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, like, well, turns out they're good at football too. So you kind of have to wait your turn. But typically waiting your turn takes longer than the 13th game of your freshman season to score 3 touchdowns. I mean, this was like, go back to Chris Olave's freshman season. Mm-hmm. That was the 12th game of his freshman season. A couple touchdowns, block punt in the Michigan game, and Marvin Harrison is someone who I think we've seen almost block punts. Like, I think, he does not play the Chris Olave position, and he's not exactly Chris Olave, but it's like he feels like he's going to have that kind of career where it's like, oh, came on early, real early in his career, big plays, big game, and then is just going to go from there. I saw him and Kyle McCord posing with someone in the stand. Someone asked Marvin Harrison about that after the game. He said it was his high school receivers coach who now lives out in California. So, yeah, that was a big time performance for him. And I think go ahead and put him on the depth chart for next year in ink, and I think you're probably feeling pretty good about that right now.
Kind of too bad that Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave didn't opt out sooner.
I did at one point think. So if Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson weren't playing, I mean, what happened the last time Garrett Wilson didn't play? Mm-hmm. Jaxon Smith-Njigba set the school record with 15 receptions. This time when Garrett Wilson didn't play, what happened?
15 receptions.
What would Jaxon Smith-Njigba's numbers have been if Garrett Wilson didn't exist this season? Like,
I don't know.
15 times 13?
I mean, really. I mean, it's like, I mean, he wouldn't have 300 catches in the season. 150. Oh, it's real. I've been up a long time.
It's real late.
100 catches, 125 catches, 2,000 yards. I mean, like, what? Stop me when I say a number that you're like, no, that's stupid.
Well, over his last, I think, 7 games, he's averaging 130 yards a game. That was before this one.
Yeah.
That's probably going to raise the average up a little bit.
That's how math works, yes.
So, and then, like, Marvin Harrison Jr., next year, you'll see him on all Big Ten preseason lists in the magazines, like Phil Steele. Mm-hmm. But all of the covers will be Jaxon Smith-Njigba and C.J. Stroud. Mm-hmm. Kevin, we got another question?
Yeah, it's just me. Tim, 79, wants to know who won time of possession.
That's a good question. Well, it's actually a terrible question. It was Utah 34-17 to 25-43. But, I mean, again, that's to Tony's point. Ohio State, that's with Utah running a kickoff back for a touchdown, which negates, that takes the possession away.
Could have had 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So, which and still could have had 40 minutes and had the same amount of points and still lost. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people asking about the coaching turnover. Our Alex Lightman had the story about Matt Barnes, the reports. I mean, he's confirmed it through some people going to Memphis to be the DC. Looks like that'll be announced as soon as tomorrow, potentially. Thoughts on that and maybe other dominoes that we think could fall?
Well, you watch this defense in the first half, and it's clear changes need to happen. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Barnes is the last one. Again, he's always been great to talk to, like him, but he's going to go be a defensive coordinator because that's, I mean, he's had 2 tastes of it now at Maryland and here to just dip his toe in the pool and not be able to jump all the way in. Now he can go install his own defense at Memphis. But yeah, I'm interested to see, does Parker Fleming stay as a full-time special teams coach? Do they keep that? Who has the option of coming back? Mm-hmm. And of those who have the option, will they? Mm-hmm. And those who don't have the option, how quickly will we find out that they are no longer here? And will it be when somebody else is hired, or will somebody, there's the timeline of all of this. I think it's going to be a pretty crazy next, week, because it's going to be quick moving, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to have stuff linger because you have February signing period coming up. So they, with the February signing day coming up, you want to have, if you're going to make changes, you're going to want to have guys in. My sense is that you're looking at, this is not like a 1-for-1 swap of Jim Knowles in for Matt Barnes and that's it. My sense is 3 or 4 maybe, and I'm standing in the field during the first half and looking at the defense and going, this isn't getting anyone unfired. So
and looking at the running game, thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
All right, we got some super
We
chats.
got 3. DK, where would this team be without Brian Hartline?
Yeah, that is a tremendous question because, I mean, like the wide receivers were good before Brian Hartline came in.
But it took him a while.
But the wide receivers were like people from Earth back then.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, this is a talented college student playing wide receiver. They no longer recruit human beings to be wide receivers.
No.
It is just all aliens all the way down. Like I remember watching Garrett Wilson first practice of spring ball his freshman year and go, oh, like this guy's already more explosive than any of the other wide receivers they have on the team. And then we watched Jaxon Smith-Njigba the first practice of spring 2020, the only practice of spring 2020 that we got to watch, and going, oh, okay, this guy is just going to be immediately incredible. And now Marvin Harrison just had 3 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl. And before that, Chris Olave had 2 touchdowns in the Michigan. It's like these are like freshmen doing true. Like this is not normal. And but now it's just normal. Brian Hartline is rank him among the and this is probably a good off-season show. Where does he rank among the greatest assistant coaches, position coaches in Ohio State football history?
Yeah, we're going to have to spend some time on that one because that's certainly not Pete Carroll or Nick Saban.
No one is springing immediately to mind. Put it that way.
But I wanted to touch on the receivers real quick, and what did I want to say about them? I can't recall. Tom, you took me out of it.
So let's let Kevin do another super chat, and you can think.
This one was sent at the time that we were answering the question, but I want to give Joe his notice. Thanks for all your hard work this season. Red Barnes is off to Memphis as a D coordinator. Any word or ideas on other changes? Thanks again. Thank you, Joe. Yeah. We're backing up on super chats. Sneaker Shack. JSN will have a better season than Smith did in 2020 next season, and we'll have 1,800 yards next year.
Very possible. And that reminds me of exactly what I wanted to say. We were talking about Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson being top 7-8 receivers in Ohio State history. Jaxon Smith-Njigba.
Yeah, they're top 7-8 wide receivers in Ohio State history, and definitely not the best receiver on this team this year. I mean, it's like
ridiculous.
We talked because we've talked about Chris Olave before, and it's like this is one of the greatest, most beloved players. He might be the 3rd best receiver on this year's team, because you have a pair of Ohio, future first-round draft picks at wide receiver, and then the guy who's just in his first year of starting, and the guy who's only set and then retied his own school record twice in the last 6 games. He might be not just better than them, could be significantly better than them.
I've had Terry Glenn up so high, but Jaxon Smith-Njigba has pushed. So we will eventually have to sit down and do this scientifically because I'm interested to see where everybody ends up.
Mm-hmm.
I can sell you. We have the talent under Knowles to improve the D for 2022.
I'm not so sold that this is as talented as Ohio State normally is on defense. I think you can argue that it should be more talented. Now, that's recruiting not panning out, guys not developing. I think there is enough talent to win a national title. And it's just about the scheme, putting them in the position to do that, executing matchups. Mm-hmm. But I think there's enough talent because, again, you have this Ohio State offense. So that's going to make the defense better.
Right. This is not a 2002 Ohio State team where it's like, well, as long as the defense is perfect and gives up no more than 10 points, they have a chance to win. It's like, get 3 stops. And you at some point during the game, get 3 stops. And you have a decent possibility of winning. And, I think the talent is not necessarily where it has been in the past. And that, to your point, I mean, I think they're real thin at certain spots. I think they're real thin at linebacker. We haven't touched on the injury to Lathan Ransom, which that looked bad on that kick return. But that's now. Yeah, that's now 2 Ohio State safeties with. Was it a broken leg?
Ryan Day said he didn't know, but he compared it to a Josh Proctor type of injury.
That's exactly what. Just when they got the air cast out, it was he was facing away from me, but when they got the air cast out, I went, I bet this is another Josh Proctor. And Josh Proctor, last we heard, is kind of ahead of schedule on his rehab. He should be okay, probably, to play next year. Lathan Ransom is now. I mean, he's 3 months behind Josh Proctor now. If it's a comparable injury,
what's a broken leg take? ACL is like 9 months, broken leg, depending on how severe. Could be a year.
Yeah, and it was the reaction to it on the field was like, this was not like, well, maybe it's a sprain. It was, I would get. I mean, I'm just purely speculating here, but the reaction to me suggested compound fracture, which is what Josh Proctor was. So, yeah, I mean that's he's certainly out for spring, I would guess. And then, is he back healthy in time for fall camp? That's going to be a big question.
Kevin.
Super chat from eBuckeye91. Could it take Knowles 2 years to develop an elite defense?
I think you can be good enough in year one because we've seen other people do it, including Chris Ash. But you should be getting better each year. You could be really, really good, and then that second year, you should be better. You should be closer to elite. I don't know what elite looks like defensively in terms of like where are you at? Where is the happy spot in terms of this is exactly what we want?
Well, I don't think they have to be elite this year, but if they are better, just better, a touchdown less per game would be significant because I think the offense is going to be able to put up a lot of points. And then, if you're better this year and then you're better the year after that, I mean, I can't even begin to parse out what the depth chart is going to look like next year versus the year after that in terms of veteran guys. But, you're going to have Jack Sawyer back, you'd have JT Tuimoloau back. You've got Steele Chambers now at linebacker for a full year. You've got a second-year Denzel Burke. I mean, you've got a lot of pieces there that Cam Brown's coming back. I mean, all this stuff that, you have a lot of pieces. And, I think better is a reasonable goal for 2022, and then elite is maybe a 2023 goal.
And just have the scheme not put the players in bad spots. Because that's been a recurring thing the last couple of years where clearly you were out-schemed, and there was nobody on that side of the field. How did that happen? And why was it so easy to manipulate?
There was a lot of times today that it was like, is contain not a thing anymore? It feels like that used to be a thing in football, like keeping contain on the. No, is that not? There were a lot of open, unset edges on that defense at points today. So there is stuff to clean up, but this is. I mean, whatever the talent you think is on the 2022 Ohio State defense, it is a significantly higher level of talent than he's used to working with at Oklahoma State.
Sir General 108, not a super chat, but brings up a good point. Jeff Hafley inherited great players when he got to Columbus.
Yeah, you inherit Jordan Fuller, Chase Young, Jeff Okudah, Damon Arnett. Mm-hmm. That's going to help you, and any one of those guys would be a significant help. And then you put them all four of them together, and the rest of the veterans. I mean, Pete Werner, look what he was able to do. Mm-hmm. So, I've given Jeff Hafley a lot of credit. But I guess it's okay to give a bunch of great players also some credit.
Yeah, and you go through that defense, and I don't know who's the Jordan Fuller, but watching today, it was like, JT Tuimoloau might be the Chase Young. Like he was. It felt to me, and I mean, I don't know if this was borne out in the stats or not, but he felt like he was being an impact player today, even if it didn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet. This was another game where there was so much pressure on the quarterback, and they didn't actually get to him very much. But there was a lot. It was a little bit like the Sugar Bowl last year, where they were constantly getting pressure on Trevor Lawrence, not necessarily getting sacked, but constantly getting in his face.
Sorry, I'm just distracted by the football out there. A lot of people bringing up the point that a lot of people wanted to say that this was a meaningless game, but obviously with almost 1,100 people online with us right now, there's a little more meaning than people try to say.
Not trying to do the I told you so type of thing, but yeah, I mean, the players certainly, it meant something to them. You saw the response in the second half, the determination at halftime. That has to make Ryan Day feel good that you just hand over the control to the guys, and now is the opportunity for you to respond. Let's see what you've got. Talking to some Utah players before the game over the week, and they were saying, it's our culture versus their culture. Let's see who wins out. And this was one of those things that I think you could chalk up to culture.
And, this was, to me, before the game, it was like this was a culture test a little bit where, everyone wants to talk about the sacred brotherhood and how much they're playing for each other and all of that. And it's like, that is extremely easy to say. And in the first half, you're down 14-0. You're down 21-7. It would have been easy to kind of pack it in and go, you know what? This is a load of crap. We lost to Michigan. None of our goals are in reach. This game doesn't matter, and just pack it in and lose 38-17. Like that is absolutely a thing they could have done, and they didn't do it. And at the end of the game, seeing the guys on the field, like you cannot tell me this did not mean something to them.
Yeah.
Did you see the smile on Ryan Day's face on that podium? I have pictures of Ryan Day smiling. It's like ear to ear, like, and I don't know. I if I had gone to the press conference, I might have asked him. So was that happiness? Was that joy or relief? Because it might have been a little bit of both. But he was very, very. I have, like, remember Jim Davidson's old picture of Jim Tressel with the big hey, open mouth. Yeah, that I have a Ryan Day picture like that today.
A very nice super chat from Treasure the Torah, $200.
Wow,
Kevin,
thank you.
Tom, and Tony, hope y'all are doing well. Much love and respect from your boy, TT Torah.
Thank you very much for that. As always, you've been very supportive. We appreciate that. Yes, we have had a good time here in Los Angeles all week long. Been good to be back and just out here, because it's fun being out here. It's fun being out here in the Rose Bowl. Every about 10 minutes, I'm taking pictures of the mountains in the background so that I have as many changes as possible on the colors and backdrops for future podcasts. But I still would like to check out the Peach Bowl, but this is never a bad time.
I am 100% of the time okay with the season ending here, and if that's 1 out of every 3 years are the college football playoff, and the other 2 years they're winning the Big Ten, and 100% of the time I am cool with a Rose Bowl trip.
Chris jumps in with, I know he didn't blow up the stat sheet, but Fleming's effort and blocking need to be recognized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's a physical guy. Left the game with, I think, a shoulder after getting taken down. Came back in, and 5 catches, 35 yards. Not the biggest numbers. I would like to see them use him more. I think they will use him more downfield next year and in different ways. But this is also, I think he was part of the running game in terms of the blocking, in terms of the catching, some quick passes, move the chains, stay on time. Because the running game was not there in the first half. So you had to get it other ways, and they did that with the passing game, Julian Fleming being one of those.
Another super chat, Matthew Holland. Joining late, is it time for me to be more critical of T. Henderson or the O-line? Seems like Mayan hits the holes more decisively getting upfield.
That's a fair criticism. I think Henderson has, and this is something that happens with young backs when they have success early bouncing stuff outside. I feel like we had a lot of these same conversations about J.K. Dobbins in 2017 and 18. You see success with the bounce. Oh, I'm gonna bounce this outside, and you have some success with that. It's like, I'm just gonna do this every time because it's gonna work great. And sometimes you've got to just kind of put your head down and run, just take the 6 yards inside, and that's something that, again, this is a true freshman who did not play football last fall. I think you got to be a little bit patient with him. He is not a finished product, but he is, again, a true freshman. There are times that I think Mayan Williams is the better option for them right now, based on what Travion Henderson is right now and what Mayan Williams is right now. But ultimately, I think Travion Henderson finishes his career with more yardage than Mayan Williams. But there is a place on this team for both of those guys for sure.
Well, and also Mayan Williams had 2 carries, and I believe stretched them both way outside. So it's not like he did anything today that Travion Henderson wasn't doing. Henderson in the first half, I think he finished with 6 carries for 9 yards. What did he finish with? 11 for 90 something. So what's that second half?
He finished 17 for 83.
So he was 74 yards rushing in the second half when they needed him. and I think 11 carries for 74 yards or whatever.
Yeah, the long of 13. He averaged 4.9, but a long of 13. So he didn't hit a big one, because if you put a 30-yarder on there, then all of a sudden 4.9 turns into 5.8, and it's just that one carry.
To answer the question, I put it on the offensive line.
Rick S. with the super chat. Hey guys, going into next year, what's going to be the bigger concern for us? Blocking or tackling? Is one a bigger issue than the other?
Blocking or tackling, which one is the bigger issue for 2022? Yeah, I mean, if we really want to kind of boil this down to the lines on both sides of the ball, I'm not entirely prepared to do a depth chart analysis on next year's team just yet, because there are a lot of questions. Is Zach Harrison coming back? Is, Jerron Cage is probably coming back. Jerron Vincent's coming back. You got Tyleik Williams. I mean, the interior of the defensive line really showed me something tonight. Like, those are guys who, you didn't have Haskell Garrett, you didn't have Antoine Jaxon. You're playing a little thin. You're playing with a very young group of players, and they really passed the test tonight, I think, in the interior of that defensive line. So
yeah, at halftime when you're processing, like, what am I going to write about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was all in on Ohio State lost this game on both sides of the line. It's unacceptable. Changes need to be made. Like, this shouldn't happen. This can't happen. But then they responded. Tackling next year is going to be, it's a new defense. It's a more aggressive defense. And if you miss one of those tackles, something could go awry. But it's both. It's all. That's what every coach says. Football is blocking and tackling. And if you have one without the other, it doesn't make the other it makes the other worse, basically.
Yeah, and on the blocking end of things, are we assuming DeJuan Jones is coming back? Are we, let's assume everyone comes back. So you've got Paris Johnson at left tackle, maybe Harry Miller at left guard, or do you have? I mean, like, there's some possibilities at left guard, or maybe Matt Jones at left guard. Donovan Jackson's a possibility at guard. You got Luke Whippler at center. You got DeJuan Jones at right tackle. I mean, that's, Paris Johnson is a great player, incredible pedigree, great athlete, but he's a first-time starter at left tackle probably, and so that's not a sure thing, but as far as gambles go, that's not a bad hand to go in on.
Super chat from Jalen Montgomery. Can Ronnie Hickman play a true safety position?
Well, I think he's going to. He's going to be maybe a strong safety, and you've got either Bryson Shaw or Josh Proctor as the free safety next year. Now, what's that? Is that a boundary and a field safety type of thing? I think Ronnie Hickman can be that boundary safety, strong safety type. He's going to have to be, because he's done it the last half of the season, last 8 games or so since they went away from the bullet. So, he's going to have some competition, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the safety positions are, I mean, we talked about the Proctor injury, we talked about the Ransom injury. Marcus Williamson obviously not back next year. You've got a lot of people you're replacing on the back end of that defense, and there are a bunch of guys who didn't play much this year. I mean, at corner you got J.K. Johnson and Jordan Hancock. At safety you got Andre Turrentine, Jansen Dunn, people like that who we haven't seen. Like, they're people that the coaching staff likes, but you got there's a lot of unknowns there, and that doesn't even get into the Jim Knowles part of the unknown.
Yep. Kevin?
I was watching everybody fight with King Bronco. We're at 53 minutes. I did tell somebody that we would try to keep this around an hour, who was asking when we would be off the field. I want to talk a little bit about Clark Phillips, the one-time Ohio State commit, the game that Clark Phillips had.
Oh, I thought you wanted to talk about him.
Yeah.
You'll hear about me. You'll hear me talking on Morning Scoop.
Yeah, Clark Phillips had he was not exclusively on Jaxon Smith-Njigba, which I thought was an interesting choice, because if you're getting eaten live, like, it seems like you'd put that guy. But the interception that Stroud had, he was covering Julian Fleming on the outside, and made a nice play on the ball. I looked at him several times and thought, boy, I bet Ohio State would like to have Clark Phillips on their team. He would probably at least provide some very good depth in the defensive backfield, if not more.
And I saw him on the field afterwards talking to players. They were all smiling and just catching up with each other. And yeah, that was a really, really nice interception. I don't think he bit on that play fake at all, and he kind of knew what was coming.
Super chat from Rick Reese. Why didn't Stroud run more?
You know what? I appreciate that. That is exactly right, Tom. So I'm C.J. Stroud, 1 carry for 10 yards. Tom, this is football. This is not ice skating. This is not lawn darts. You have to run the ball to win. And C.J. Stroud, I don't know if they can win, say, a Rose Bowl if he only runs the ball once for 10 yards. Now, granted, a 10-yard carry per average, a 10-yard average per carry is pretty good. But if you can run for 10 yards a carry, why don't you do it more than once, Tom?
It seems like if you ran 50 times, you could run for 500 yards, which, I mean, that would be pretty good. Let's see. I was trying to find the average yards per pass.
C.J. Barrett. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do the math extremely accurately off the top of my head, but 573 yards passing on 46 attempts. That's going to be, what, 11 and...
Ish.
Yeah, just about 11 yards. So 10 yards every time you ran the ball and 11 yards every time you threw the ball. You know, if you're going to put up 11 yards, 11-ish yards per play as a quarterback, that's going to be pretty good.
12.456217, just as I said. But Tom, every time he ran the ball, he picked up a first down. Every time he threw it, he didn't.
That's inarguable. I apologize. Now I can say something nice about you. That was correct. Good job.
Thank you.
As we start to wind down here a little bit, we'll still keep pushing through Super Chats. Walking away from this game, if you just close your eyes and think of one play, what's the one play that you're going to remember most?
Go ahead, Tom.
I'm thinking.
I think and again, it's the catches, the perfectly placed touchdown catches, and there was like 3 of them. Like Buka, Marvin Harrison had one. Jaxon, Smith-Njigba had one. I think probably the Jaxon, Smith-Njigba one in the corner there. I don't know if it was at the end of the half, but it was like, because I could see it was like right at the angle I was watching, and I'm not even sure exactly when it was, but it may have been the 4th down to, I don't know if it was 4th, but just Ohio State had all of the momentum at that point. And so C.J. Stroud's like, yeah, I'm just going to throw it into the end zone for Jaxon, Smith-Njigba. Perfect placement, and we're up there like, did he really catch that? And that's a lot of the story of Jaxon, Smith-Njigba. Did he really catch that?
Yeah, that's a good one. There was, I mean, it's going to be hard. The kick return from Britton Covey. That's one that's not going to be the story of the game one, but that's one that was just like a holy Moses. This game has completely just left the tracks. There are literally too many good options.
Yeah.
Is the thing. That was a really remarkable.
This is
game.
one of those games you go and rewatch because you want to hear what the TV people have to say.
Yeah.
Super chat from DK. Why is Tom such a hater? Almost as bad as Tony picking Michigan in 2005.
Wow. That's a deep cut. I did pick Michigan in 2005. And again, my preview was exactly correct in terms of how the game was going to go. I just had the winner wrong. Now, Tom, he is a hater. He is like, you can see him stomping on the sideline. I've got a great view up there. I'm watching Ohio State score, and I'm seeing little boy Green over here. I don't even know what that means. Just stomping away, just angry Tom. I can see him getting redder and redder. And it's like, hey, at least that's the school colors.
Yeah. I was watching and thinking, well, when Utah was at 38 points, it was like, well, I picked them to score 31, and 7 of that was a kickoff return. So really, I was pretty much right. I will fully admit, I will be the first to admit, and possibly the only one on this podcast to admit, I did not see a 573-yard, 6-touchdown passing performance coming out of C.J. Stroud with 2 new starting receivers. That's on me. I apologize.
It was funny. It was like 48-45 at the end there, and talking with somebody else, I'm like, hey, I picked 48 points for Ohio State. And then I thought, no, I didn't. I only picked 38. This game is crazy.
Yeah, for me, I think that, it's easy to remember the negatives, remembering the fumble by Jaxon Smith-Njigba. That one jumps off, but the one catch going and, I can't turn the camera, but caught in the corner where you just weren't sure if he got his foot down. It certainly
Harrison?
Yes, that one. I just couldn't necessarily fathom that catch was going to be made.
And was that the 4th and 1? Was that the 4th? I can't even. There's so much to this game. Like, I'm going to have to rewatch it to remember. Like, I totally even forgot about that play.
Yeah.
But it's just unfortunate for Jaxon Smith-Njigba that the way he tarnished this game with that fumble.
King Bronco with a super chat. Smith, I'm sure he's talking about Smith-Njigba, but he said Smith-Njigba or Ronnie Bell in 2022.
Yeah, Jaxon Smith-Njigba will have, I don't want to say twice the catches, but 50% more catches than Ronnie Bell because of the style of offense, the number of targets, and the lack of conservative offense.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, I think I would take Jaxon Smith-Njigba in receptions, yards, and touchdowns next year over Ronnie Bell. I think Ronnie Bell will have a good year because I think J.J. McCarthy's probably going to be the quarterback, and they're going to have probably a pretty good offense. But they still are. Jim Harbaugh is by nature a run-the-ball guy. Ryan Day is by nature a throw-the-ball guy, so that's going to be a difference.
Yep.
I've got one last one as we've hit the hour mark. Who is Ohio State's Heisman candidate next year? Is it C.J. Stroud? Is it Jaxon Smith-Njigba? Is it Trevion Henderson? Or is it other?
That's a really good question because right now, Jaxon Smith-Njigba is going to be one of those dark horses that becomes a front runner because people want to say, hey, I'm not just going to pick a quarterback. I'm going to go with the receiver. Did you see what he did in the Rose Bowl? And so he'll be a hot commodity, but it's C.J. Stroud. I mean, he's the quarterback. He deserves it. He was outstanding today. He put the ball into places where Jaxon Smith-Njigba could catch it and go 50 yards, or catch it and he's already in the end zone.
Yeah, when in doubt, assume it's the quarterback. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to win it as a receiver, you have to have days like this on stages like this, and having this as a little bit of a head start where. Now, like you said, the preseason magazines, he's going to be a first-team preseason All-American because everyone's going to go, all right, who was a good receiver? Oh, yeah, him. And that gives you a good start. And you have a couple blow-up games like this. You have a couple 250-yard kind of receiving games, 3 touchdowns. That's the kind of stuff you've got to do. But you got to do it against Penn State. You got to do it against Michigan. It can't just be like, well, he had this incredible day against Akron. Like that, you have to do this on big stages and. I mean, safe to say, I think at least today he showed that that's at least a possibility for him.
Of course, the irony is doing this in a bowl game does nothing for a Heisman.
Well, yes, that's true.
Super chat from Rick Reese. Play of the game was Stroud's run.
I mean,
it was important.
It was an important play, yeah.
3rd and 9 or whatever, picked up 10 yards and kept the ball moving. I think he has kind of put that to bed finally. And if he hasn't with some people, that's on them. They're never going to be on board with it. Whatever, that's fine. Look what they're going to miss out on.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I think this was a game where some people had decided in advance they were going to be mad about this and they weren't going to care about this. And then the first half, it was like, you can choose to be mad about this, but like I think everyone else is going to go like, holy pants, that was an incredible game. This is a really exciting team moving into next season. You have the option to live with joy or to live in misery, and if you're on Twitter, it's like, well, everyone has chosen the latter, but you don't actually have to do that. You can. Football is a thing you're allowed to enjoy.
Yeah,
it's actually a fun thing, so I would suggest you choose joy in the year 2022.
Well said, Tom. Is that going to do it for us, Kevin? Okay, we see the Rose Bowl people themselves are starting to leave, so that might be a sign it's time to go. So. Do want to thank you all for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this game. How could you not have enjoyed this game? Thank you for all 1,200 of you. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the regular chats. Thank you for just being here late on a Saturday night. We do appreciate that. And Tom, that's going to wrap it from Pasadena, the Rose Bowl. Soak it all in before we leave out of here. Just an incredible day. Thank you all for joining us, and we will talk to you guys later.